FM 95.5 West.
And we're back. Radio Free New York for your Friday with Kevin Wilson.
Yep. Subbing in for Andrew here at WYSL, Radio Free New York. And I think my sound's working online now. Yay! So hopefully you guys can hear me at home. I've recorded this, so we will get the recording up for you later in case you missed the first part of this episode. So we're talking about Justin Amash. We're talking about the impeachment thing. And again, Justin Amash does outline the reasons why he feels impeachment's appropriate. I don't know if we want to go over all those now, but I think...
Just give us a couple for instances.
Okay, a couple for instances was when he had asked...
President Trump had...
President Trump, yes, let's be specific, you're right. President Trump had asked... let's see, he had asked people to resign. He had asked people to stop the investigation. He had asked... I'm going to try to find his exact tweet so I can get it right. All right, so let's see. Justin Amash, one piece system. Oh, okay.
So Justin Amash is saying that this is all related to the Trump the Russia investigation of Trump, and that Trump was in some way trying to impede that investigation.
Yeah,
is that fair to say?
That's exactly what I was trying to say. And in this case, the way he had impeded was to again take actions to try to stop that. Most of which weren't obeyed, which is kind of an interesting kind of constitutional thing. Like he had asked his counsel to lie. He had asked them to, again, take different actions to stop the investigations. He had asked, Okay. He had kind of implied in public that he would give pardons for kind of not folding in the face of this investigation. And again, he may not have actually committed the original crime, like the source of the original investigation.
So these are process crimes, is what you're saying. These are where he was telling an untruth, but was he under oath? I mean, look, here's the thing about all this stuff. Justin Amash, I'm looking at you right now. These are allegations. These are questions of fact, and presumably with the $30 million in the 26 months or however many it was, that Mueller investigated all of this stuff. If there was a question of fact that proved these allegations, they would have been brought forward, and that would have resulted in some kind of a charge in front of Congress. A prosecutor does one of two things. A prosecutor, which is basically what Mueller was. That's how he was performing. He either refers the matter for prosecution, or he says there is insufficient evidence. There are not the facts to support a prosecution. And so there's either a prosecution or there's not a prosecution. A prosecutor who's in that role does not say, well, we couldn't find anything, but there's some other stuff there, and Congress may want to take another look at it.
No, I think this is obviously a special case, though. Like, this is the President of the United States, the Justice Department.
But the law is the law, right? I mean,
no, it is the law, and that's why I'm kind of skeptical that the Justice Department thinks its hands are tied more than maybe it ought to be in some instances. But in this case, yeah, he doesn't want to overstep his constitutional authority and cause a constitutional crisis. He just says, here are the facts as we found them, and that the president had attempted to use his power to impede an ongoing investigation is something that's really serious. And it's not the underlying crime. It was the cover-up that's kind of an issue. And I don't really like process. Like, I don't like how they got people like Paul Manafort, who I absolutely don't like. He's a terrible guy if you've ever researched what he's done in his life. But they got him basically on lying to the FBI.
Right.
I think it's a nonsense crime.
Manafort's a slime ball and probably deserves to go to slammer for a number of reasons. But other people like Flynn, I mean, these guys, their lives were trashed, and it's all this would their quote crimes unquote would not have occurred but for the presence of the investigation.
Right.
And that's the old, they haul you in and they put put you under oath and you say, what did you do on Tuesday? And you say, no, I think it was Wednesday. Then it turns out to be Tuesday because your memory's faulty, and now you're guilty of lying.
FBI.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
and that's nonsense. And that, again, shouldn't be... People shouldn't be going to jail for that, really. Lawyer up, folks. Don't talk to the FBI without a lawyer.
Don't ever talk to the government. But the truth of the matter is that with lawyer or with not, they're going to get you. They're going to find some way to do it.
Yeah.
If that's what they want to do. Stalin used to say, you show me the man, I'll show you the crime.
That's right. And that's where we're kind of in that position in the United States. But I think kind of the bigger issue that Justin Amash is pointing out is, like, we have a president who's absolutely misrepresented the truth, and he didn't necessarily commit a crime in doing that, but that's concerning for someone that we're trusting to be the president of the United States. And Obama misrepresented the truth too, and George W. Bush misrepresented the truth too, and I don't particularly like that. I think that we should use the impeachment power more. I think that presidents often abuse their constitutional authority, and that when they do so, Congress needs to step up and take action.
Well, yes, let's rewind a couple of frames here. Absolutely, Congress needs to do its job. Congress, a long time ago, decided that its jobs are twofold. Number one is to raise money to run for re-election, and the other job is to run for re-election.
Right.
And all the
the paycheck for it.
all of the legislative functions all get delegated to the fourth branch of government, unelected bureaucrats, to lobbyists, and increasingly, and this is what I find to be the especially troubling part of all of this, the media.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it's a lot of policy is shaped through these public discussions, but yeah, I mean, we have that example right now too, where President Trump is able to declare an emergency and impose a tariff, and even if you agree with the reasons, like, what constitutional authority does he actually have to do that? And is Congress actually going to say, "Oh, come on, that's not really like how you're supposed to use that"? But no, they're not going to do that. They're not going to actually take back their power to levy taxes.
No, because with the power comes accountability, and that's the part that they don't want.
No,
that's
they'd rather be unaccountable, and they can blame someone else. Or say,
you know what? I'll tell you what, that Education Department, I'm going to write them. You're absolutely right about Common Core. I'm going to write them a sternly worded letter. So now we have members of Congress who are supposed to be the people's representatives, and they're in the letter writing business.
Yeah, no, and all they're going to do is just like make some noise about it, and then
I did what I could. I stepped up. I'm fighting for you. How many political commercials have you heard saying? Fighting for better schools, fighting for lower taxes, fighting for less potholes. Who are they fighting? Apparently, they're fighting us.
Yes. You figured it out, Bob.
Thanks. It only took me 50 years or so to do that, but
oh, good. I'm ahead of the curve then.
Yes, you are.
All right. So again, with this, I don't think Justin's acting in bad faith. I think he's concerned about a president who, again, misrepresents the truth, who's trying to act to cover things up, who's using his power in an inappropriate way, and he's done that across administrations. And what gets me is that the Republicans who are turning their back on him, because kind of getting back to the liberalism that's rising in the conservative.
Turning their back on Trump or Amash?
No, on Amash,
yeah.
Right. So he's getting primaried now, of course, just like Mark Sanford was, just like any other Republican who challenges the president will be, and they're saying like, oh, he's not a real conservative because he's challenging the president. Even though they're like, oh, where were you when Obama was abusing his power? And he's like, all right, right here. Here are the tweets that I sent out saying Obama should be impeached over this unconstitutional action, and that we needed to take the power of Congress back here. We need to protect Fourth Amendment rights. We need to protect Second Amendment rights. He's been there the whole time since 2010, since he got elected. Again, if we're measuring conservatism by limited government principles, he's one of the best. And again, I don't...
As expressed in tweets.
As expressed in bills that he's supported.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, because I wanted to ask that question. Because, I didn't want to stop your train of thought there, but this is an increasing trend that I'm seeing generally in national politics. Now, full disclosure, this comes from someone who does not use social media. That would be me, because I just don't. I think it's...
You're probably better off for it.
I think I am. And in point of fact, every time I bring this up, that's the sentiment I get from people. You're probably better off. But let's understand that tweets are not a substitute for legislative action.
Absolutely true. No, you're right. And think you could certainly level that criticism at a lot of politicians.
Almost all of them.
Yeah, no, a lot of them. And they like to, and it kind of getting back to what we said before, they will signal that they are for you on this issue. Oh, I'm going to write that stern letter to the Department of Education, to the DEA, to whatever it is. And they'll tweet about it. They'll get some, applause. People feel good, and then they don't do anything.
Right. That's where it ends.
Yeah, and that's the end all be all of the whole conversation. But Justin Amash, guy's a true believer, and it's funny seeing the progressive articles come about him. They're like, oh yeah, the Tea Party movement, like most of them, they weren't really serious about reducing debt, and thank God. But Justin Amash, that guy's an actual fanatic. He really does want to reduce the debt. He really does want to put it back to the federal government.
I believe his voting record shows he actually did reduce spending, did he not? I mean, not just reducing the amount of increase in Michigan, but reducing overall spending. I could be wrong about that.
For what he's fought for. A lot of times he's alone in this fight. It's him and Rand Paul on his better days, and Thomas Massie and Mike Lee, and like a handful of others in Congress who actually want to keep the federal government accountable and to not spend away our entire future. But again, he's one of the good guys, and it's so frustrating to see portions of the movement turn his back on him now that partisanship has gotten in the way. And that's the thing that bugs me, is that partisanship is so toxic. And I feel like I've gone on this rant so many times, but partisanship is so toxic that it ends up getting you to betray every single principle that you've ever held. That if we actually stick to what is good, what makes sense, what conclusions we can get to based on reason, based on freedom, based on ideological principles moored in morality, which is what I think liberalism in the very broadest sense of the word is. That would be a much better way of doing things. Instead, again, we dive into these tribes with both the Republicans and Democrats can't support good legislation because they're loyal to their team.
Right. What are you going to do? Vote for the Democrats?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And tribal politics is that's the other toxic place where this leads us.
Yeah, and so the disagreement with that tribalism leads to people turning their back on the people who have actual principles moored in the broadest sense of liberalism that the country was founded on. And that's sad. That's frustrating. And, I'm not quite sure what to do with that, but we're going to keep fighting.
Well, we do. And we'll fight for another segment here on Radio Free New York after this break.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
I'm Las from Action Towing and Service. The people really make this place incredible. I feel at home. I love what I do. I love the people that I work with. The owner of the business is actively involved. He is a veteran. We have a very close relationship with all of the staff. Every employee there is known by name, and we really, really work hard on giving that home feel, or the family feel. Please give us an opportunity to win your business. Come down and visit us at 275 Marketplace Drive, right off of Jefferson Road.
Why do businesses choose to move their website and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York on the WYSL stations.
Okay, folks, thanks so much for joining us for Radio Free New York for this Friday. Bob Savage in studio with Kevin Wilson.
Yep, back in subbing for Andrew Hollister here at Radio Free New York. And we've been talking about kind of the death of conservative fusionism, partisanship, the rising of liberalism, and again, I use liberal in the sense of classic liberal government. I'm going to keep saying that because my habit for many years was to use liberal as a substitute for progressive. But when I mean the Democrats, I'm going to say progressive, or I'll call them what they are, socialists. That's what they are. But
liberal, small L liberal.
Small L liberal. Yeah. Because the Democrats, they've lost a lot. The liberals, in the broadest sense of the term, have lost a lot of their ground to the socialists and the progressives. The people who want to control you, who want to think of things in a collective, who want to control not just your personal life but also your economic life as well. And I've spent a lot of time talking about conservatives because I know the listenership of the station tends to lean a little bit in that direction, but let's not forget that the progressives are very much losing ground in that direction too. You'd be hard pressed to find a lot of Democrats who would agree with the classical liberal label anymore. A few, but
yeah. And by the way, that's why I would pretty confidently predict that Biden is going to be the nominee. I think on the Democrat side.
Think so? Biden?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. You don't think it's going to be Bernie?
I don't think it's going to be Bernie. When Bernie is saying things like what he said the other day when he declared that what we need to do is pay more so that we can get things for free.
Yeah. Or
that doesn't compute.
Yeah. Or it could be someone like Elizabeth Warren, which, again, people like Tucker Carlson have gone on praising.
Well, in one instance, he quoted her at some length about some economic issues and said what Republican would disagree with any of these tenets. So there's a couple of major.
I'm flabbergasted by this. To me, I'm like, how could any Republican look at Elizabeth Warren and be like, yeah, you know what, that's the direction.
Well, I think to some extent. I mean, I don't know, but my guess would be Tucker Carlson had tongue planted in cheek firmly when he quoted all that stuff. I don't think he meant that Elizabeth Warren is a potentially great commander in chief for the United States.
No, and I wouldn't say that either. What I think he said is that he thought the Republicans should adopt a more economically nationalist platform.
That's the larger
with social
point.
Conservatism, which again to me is the antithesis of what libertarianism is. It's the antithesis of free markets and free societies, is to have a national economic plan, to think of us as a collective, to think of us as like nationalist as compared to individuals who are operating, trying to meet their own needs and make sense for them. I don't think that authority should come from the top down. But I don't think that he's necessarily wrong either that an economic nationalist with a social conservative platform would do bad. I think that he's probably right on that. And the reason why is that a lot of people are scared. They're absolutely terrified of what's going on right now. They're terrified of the Democrats. They're terrified of the Republicans. And when people are fearful, they want to find something that is nice and safe. The Democrats are offering the safety of socialism. Now, that safety is going to suffocate you, and it's going to suffocate the economy. But for a lot of people, it seems nice. The government's going to take care of me. That is great. And the conservatives, the nationalist movement within the Conservative Party is trying to feel the same thing. Like, we will keep you safe. We'll keep you safe from immigrants. We'll keep you safe from economic woes. We'll bring you as part of this group. We will build up your identity as an American, and that is going to keep you safe. If we have a strong central authority, we're going to make sure that you have freedom from fear. And that's what that is.
That's a bridge too far, I'm telling you. If you think about that for just a minute, I mean, really what we're talking about here, those two scenarios that you just posited, the only thing that differs between them is the methods.
Yeah. No, that's a lot of what that is. And again, people are terrified. And I, there's a lesson I think that a lot of libertarians learned in 2016, because we thought in 2016 that if we just made people terrified enough of the two presidential candidates, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, that people would fall into our camp because we're the sensible alternative. But that's not what happens.
You, the libertarians.
Us, the libertarians. We thought, like we offer this way that has individual freedom that is probably closer to where the Overton window was pre-2016 than what is being offered by the far left in the Democratic Party and the far right in the Republican Party. But the Overton window is moving. And part of the reason why is, again, people are scared. So because they're scared, when people are scared, they want this sense of safety, and you don't get safety in individual freedom. Individual liberty isn't safe. It really isn't. There's a lot of risk involved. And that's what it is. There's a lot more reward involved, too. But individual liberty isn't safe. You could go bankrupt. You could take on a lot of student loan debt and struggle. You could get hurt. If everyone has Second Amendment rights, that means that some people might abuse those rights and hurt other people. It might mean that, again, some immigrant comes in and they do take your job. But overall, the argument is, and it's really hard to see it, that life is going to be better. That because we have people who are making their own choices and who are able to interact freely and are able to trade freely with other businesses, because nations don't trade with each other. We don't trade with China. We don't trade with Mexico. American businesses trade with Mexican businesses. American individuals trade with Chinese individuals. That's what actually happens. Nations don't trade with each other. And we have to kind of trust that system is going to be better. But when you don't have that trust, when you have fear instead, it's hard for people to agree that you should have liberty. And it's starting to deteriorate within both parties. And I think right now, there's an opportunity for true classical liberals, in the broadest sense of the word, not just libertarians, but classical liberals, people who believe in individual liberty. And there's some in the Democrats still, there's some in there's many in the Republican Party still. There's an opportunity to drag the Overton window back towards us, because if we don't fight for that, we're going to lose this battle. Freedom is something that each generation has to continually fight for, and I think that.
Well, you have to redefine it individually for yourself. You have to say, this is what liberty means to me.
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of align that with history and say, what's the best way to get there? And it's never through government. It never works through government. I don't care, what badge somebody's wearing or what ideology they profess. It's always all about the individual, and the individual starts, folks, with you. And I'm sorry, there's no easy way to get to this. You got to do the work.
No, and that's my call to all of you listening today, is that we need to put in the work. We need to make the arguments. We can't take for granted, especially people who are already on the libertarian side or on the classical liberal side. We can't take for granted that we have the freedoms that we have now. You have to keep making those arguments. You have to make the arguments for capitalism. You have to make the arguments for individual liberty. You have to make the arguments for free trade. You have to make the arguments for Second Amendment rights. And it is exhausting to do, but you've got to keep doing it. You've got to do it in good faith, and you can't get to the point where you're just going to throw your hands up and say, oh, well, these people are just different. They're never going to understand. We have to keep doing it.
Yeah, you also have to establish a filter. You have to filter out the lies, because self-interested people are going to tell you all kinds of bunk. I mean, the Democrats are going to tell you bunk. The Republicans are going to tell you bunk. Some libertarians will tell you bunk. And corporate, not present company accepted, of course. Corporate America is going to tell you a lot of bunk.
Yeah.
Higher education is going to tell you bunk with really stinky frosting all over it. It's up to you to figure out what really works. And I'm not just talking about in the abstract here. I'm talking about, how do you get what you want out of life?
Yeah.
You get what you want out of life by being in control of your life. You can't be in control of your life if you're on the dole, if you're letting politicians spoon feed you stuff. And because all they want is your vote.
Yeah.
And the minute they've got your vote, they're done with you. They're done listening. They don't care. You won't hear from them. They won't have one even tangential interest in your life until the next election cycle.
Yeah.
And then the cycle will repeat.
That's right. And for some people, that it seems comforting. I know that doesn't sound right, but it seems comforting. Well, if I just give all my choices, these hard choices I have to make, I'm not able to get my life together. If I give those choices to the government, those smarter people will make better choices for me. Guys, they're not going to make better choices for you. That's not going to happen. But for a lot of people, that seems comforting. And they don't mind that they're not just giving up their own choice, they're giving up the choices for me and you too. And that's what we need to fight for. If someone wants to externalize all their choices, externalize all their freedom, they want to do it privately, just, okay, whatever, leave me alone though. I want to be able to make my own choices because I know what's best for my life. The government doesn't know what's best for my life. President Trump doesn't. Governor Cuomo doesn't. Not even the local politicians do. I want to be able to enjoy the freedom to grow my business, to interact with people who I want to interact with, to be able to buy goods and services in a way that makes sense for me, as long as I'm not hurting someone or taking their stuff.
Yeah, and I also want to have an education for my kids that isn't top down and isn't prescribed by bureaucrats. In some cases, they're not even educators.
Yeah.
Because these people will tell you your kids all kinds of lies, and they're doing it right now.
No, absolutely.
You got to pay absolute attention to what your kids are learning in school.
No, and actually, my backup plan for the show is I have a whole rant about why we need a paradigm shift in education, because that's part of it too. Part of it is that you end up learning this helplessness in school, but also through other ways as well. And we need to fundamentally rethink how people learn how to learn, and how people engage in civic life. So that's my message for you, though, this week, while I'm hosting for Radio Free New York, is that we need to keep fighting that battle. We need to keep making that argument for liberty. That's it.
Thank you, Libertarian. I'm sorry. Yes, Libertarian Kevin Wilson. See you next time here on Radio Free New York.
Only $147 a month. Only $147 a month for a new $26,000 Patrick Buick Encore. Only one